Oh, and this is also recorded. Sometimes I forget to. And I'll just go ahead and get started since it's new. Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining this week's Small Business Essential webinar, Bidding Basics. My name is TJ Daniels, and I am the director for the Iowa Center's Women's Business Center. The Iowa Center's Women's Business Center is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration. You all will receive an email after this event from my colleague Sierra Smith, thanking you for attending today's session, information on how to connect to our speaker, as well as a form to complete. Please do us a big favor and take some time to fill this form out. This information allows us to continue providing free educational programming for small business owners in Iowa. Now go ahead and please take some time to locate the chat function on your Zoom screens so you can join the conversation by asking questions or adding comments. Also, feel free to introduce yourself and your business in the chat and include your website or social media page so we can visit and learn more about your business and network. Now, a little bit of information about today's speaker. Our speaker is Carl Wimp. Carl is the procurement manager at the state of Iowa Department of Administrative Services. His procurement experience comes from the military, private education, and private sectors. Carl, thank you so much for taking the time out to present to us today. And I will now hand the screen over to you.
Very good, thank you. Hello, everybody. It's nice to meet you all. Like she said, I've been doing procurement for a long time through various sectors and in different manners. Through that experience, I've just seen a lot of different things with vendors and just wanted to share a few pointers this morning about how to be successful in your procurement opportunities and responding to those procurements and then maintaining them later on. I'm going to keep it kind of high level, just public procurement in general. And invite any questions along the way. TJ will interrupt me if there's any questions that come up. I like this to be a good back and forth discussion, and I don't want to wait till the end if you have a question right away and want to ask that. If you do have questions at the end, though, we'll have time for that, and we want to discuss those. So with that, I'm going to stop my video and share a screen so you can see my slides here. And hopefully that is doing that now, and you can see my presentation here.
Yes, we see it.
Very good. So let's skip to the next slide here. Doing business with public agencies is different than your normal customers. We recognize that, and I try to do what we can to assist businesses in doing those procurements. One of the biggest things that I ask people along the way in their procurement experience is to ask questions at every stage. If there's something you don't understand, please ask questions. That's just how we make sure things get taken care of. When we're doing business, public procurement seeks to provide a number of different things. We want equal competitive opportunities. We want to provide fair and open competition to all the vendors that are participating in the process. We try to be a reliable customer. We have good payment practices. We want to be transparent and obviously ethical and efficient and provide effective public procurement. I want to guard against favoritism, improvidence, and extravagance, fraud, and corruption. So I'll make sure, again, everything is fair. In summary, treat everybody all the same and provide a level playing field for everyone who is participating in the process. We buy anything and everything. So how we get it, though, is different than what other customers you have in the private sector may be. So we want to talk a little bit about that today. So along the way, there's different stages of the procurement process. First one I want to talk about is pre-solicitation. So how do you find things? How do you find those opportunities out there that you can bid on and have a shot at? I encourage people to do homework whenever they can beforehand. We don't want to wait until that solicitation comes out and then you're trying to play catch up. If you can go out there and find information beforehand, that's just a good thing for you to do. Do that homework, do that legwork, and be informed as to what's going on. You can do this a number of different ways. You can look at legislation. There's always that to go look at. Smaller agencies will have council meetings and things that are drive what they're doing. You can go out and look at budgets for departments if there's one that's of particular interest to you. Looking at the contracts website, if the agency has one, a lot of larger agencies are going to have their contracts listed out there. There may not be a lot of detail, maybe basic in some cases, but at least it gives you an idea of what they're buying and some things that they have out there that you could have the opportunity to bid on at some point. You can use open records laws. I'm going to mention that a few times today at different stages. To use those as to your advantage, to go find information, to know what contracts are out there, what other people bid on it in the past, and how they bid on it, what they bid, so that you can use that information to make a more informed approach to your response to your solicitations. I encourage you to register in bidding systems. A lot of departments out there now, COVID pushed us all to go online with our procurements. So the state has a procurement system that we use, and a number of other agencies. I know a lot of larger cities have those. The schools, the regions, all have bidding systems that they use to put out their solicitations electronically, where you can respond to those. I know it can be a task to manage all of them and have the logins all taken care of, but do what you can there to work through those systems. There's a number of different notification tools out there now, online websites where you can go register, and they will send you notices for different bidding opportunities across agencies. Some of those are free, some of them you have to pay for. But if you're really interested in doing public work, I encourage you to sign up for those, and just so you are informed when those things come up. Keep in mind those electronic bidding systems I just talked about, a lot of those will send you notifications. So if you're registered in them, they too will send you information when an opportunity comes available for you to go and go out there and look at it and learn from it. And just in general, there's the good old networking, be in contact with your agencies out there. If there's something you provide and you think there's an agency that would benefit from your good or service that you're providing, get in contact with them and learn from them about what it is that they buy, when they buy it, and how they buy it, so that you're informed when the opportunity comes up. They know you, you know them, so then they're more likely to notify you when those opportunities come available. Some of them are formal, some are informal, and so which we'll talk about a little bit more in a little bit. So if it's an informal and they just need to reach out to somebody to get a quote, they have your name, they have your contact information, and they're ready to contact you when they have a need for that item. So once that solicitation hits the street and you're getting ready to respond to it, there's a number of things we can do there. When you're completing your response, I'm going to probably mention this numerous times today. It's very important to read the solicitation front to back, know what you're responding to and what you would be committing to by submitting a bid and going into that contract phase. Know what is being asked of you to do. Know who you can communicate with. Likely in there, that's going to identify who the issuing officer is in that solicitation, and that's probably your sole point of contact through the process. And in some cases, like with the state, we'll tell you if you contact other people to attempt to get inside information or whatever, that you may be dismissed from the process and not allowed to submit a bid. The whole point of that is to make sure that everybody who's participating gets the same information at the same time. We want to make sure, again, that we are providing that fair and even playing field for all the participants. So once you ask a question, we'll probably document it and respond to it in an addendum to the solicitation, and post that out publicly so everybody sees at the same time. Nobody gets an unfair advantage there. When you're reviewing that solicitation, again, seek clarifications, ask questions, do not assume anything. There should be identified in the solicitation a process for submitting questions. If not, just send them to that issuing officer and let them know what your question is. Again, we want to fully understand what the requirements are so you know what you are committing to. Pay attention to keywords in the solicitation. Identify any must items. Those are things you have to do in order to be a responsive bidder. And then other words, must, shall, will. So those all identify mandatory requirements. Should, could, may are recommended conditions, good to have, but not necessarily required in that solicitation. So make sure we're really identifying which ones are which and knowing what, again, what you're committing to. When you are going through and responding to that solicitation, answer all questions thoroughly. Depending on the type of solicitation it is, some of it may be just a yes/no question, maybe a request for bid, and it's just you're providing a quote and there's not a whole lot to ask. But in an RFP, a request for proposal situation, where they're asking you a lot of questions, it's very important that you respond thoroughly because they're going to be scoring you based upon that response. If you put in a one-line response and doesn't really say much, you're going to get scored really low. Whereas if you provide a detailed response, answering all the questions in detail, you're going to get a higher score, most likely. So make sure that you are very thorough in responding to those questions and have completed all that. Make sure you complete all the forms. Sometimes there's some forms in there you have to fill out, giving you the vendor information or how to contact you. Other types of information may be asked for. Make sure you complete all of those and fill in every blank so that all that information is there. Another key one is signing the document where appropriate. I've seen responses in the past where people put all that work into it, but they didn't sign it, committing themselves to it. So that's always a frustrating point on our side when we have a good response and everything, and it has to be dismissed because of a little detail like that, which is concerning because that means that they're not paying that much attention to the response and how to do that and those instructions. They may not be paying attention to what our needs are. Attention to detail is very important, and we want to make sure that we have a good vendor and is completing all those steps in the process, dotting the I's, crossing the T's everywhere we go. We don't want to get thrown out for that reason. Thankfully, nowadays the bidding systems make that easier. In some cases, if it's required and you didn't provide it, the system just won't let you submit it. It'll give you an error message saying, hey, you got to go back and fill this in. So that has been a kind of a blessing there to help us make sure that we have better responses and more complete responses there. So you can't submit a solicitation response without providing all that information. If you are an incumbent to a contract, that's where I've seen a lot of people fall short. Sometimes incumbents will go and just expect the agency reviewing the response just to know what they've done for them in the past and aren't real thorough in answering those RFP responses. So I highly encourage those incumbents to make sure that they too go through and are very responsive. You never know who's going to be evaluating it. I like to bring in neutral parties from outside who may not be familiar with everybody and may be not familiar with your company. So you need to thoroughly respond to that question and make sure you complete that thoroughly. When we look at responses and we look at the vendors, two words come up. You may see these: responsive and responsible. So responsive is in regards to how well the respondent meets the needs of the solicitation. Their ability to just do the scope of work identified and meet the requirements of the solicitation itself. So that's how well you responded to it. Whereas responsible is in regards to how the capabilities to provide the goods and services identified in the solicitation, such as your ability to get bonded, insured, your experience in staffing. We have a large project and we're putting that together, and we have insurance requirements and things in there, proper experience for that project. And you're a two-man shop who doesn't have that experience, you can't get bonded. That's going to be a problem there. So we want to make sure that you are both responsive and responsible. You can, respond to the RFP appropriately, meet the conditions of it, but then you can also have all the means to do the work being asked of you. So Then one other key thing I will point out here is don't wait till the last minute to submit your response. Back in the old days when we had paper responses that were due and they had to be dropped off by a certain due date and time, it was always frustrating to have somebody show up just a couple minutes late. And we'd have to send them away, sometimes in tears. So we want to make sure that you don't wait till the last minute to get there. Things can come up. In our electronic world, we still see some of those issues where somebody's internet went down and everything went out in the last half an hour before it closes, and they can't submit their response. Sometimes these online bidding tools get bogged down in the last few minutes before they close, and things don't get uploaded in the time that it needs to before it closes. And so then that response is rejected by the system itself. So even though there's some differences there, we still have those same issues. We just don't want you to wait till the last minute. Don't procrastinate. Get it in early if you can, and make sure you don't lose that opportunity just because of something simple like that. Each agency will have different thresholds. I throw these up here just as an example. For the state is what our thresholds are for the type of solicitation that we do. So in this case, for the state, $0 $15,000. We don't have any competition required. We can go out to any vendor, get one quote, and go forward with it. We do encourage people to, even though that's the minimum requirement, to go out there and get more quotes, but that again is just the minimum requirement. And that's all we have to do for those types of purchases. Between $15,000 and $50,000, this is again informal, but it does require 3 quotes here. So we have to get a minimum of 3 quotes from vendors for that good or service to proceed there. And then over $50,000 is going to be a formal solicitation, and we have to put that out publicly and require open competition for that. Like I said, public agencies out there, we have different thresholds. I know like the regions have different dollar amounts for those, but that's the 3 primary categories and types of competition that are going to be required. But again, different dollar amounts there. That would dictate how they proceed with those procedures. Again, just to go over a little bit more, informal is going to be, you go out there and get 3 quotes, where formal is going to be a sealed response due by a specific date and time. And it's going to be over $50,000. Again, those dollar amounts could change by the agency, but just want to make you aware of the differences there. After submittal, so you've submitted your response, due date and time has passed, and the agency it's now in the agency's hands to go and review those responses. While you're waiting for an answer, I know some people are really anxious, and I've had people call me every day asking me where are we at. Be patient. Things sometimes they take a little bit of time if there's a lot of responses or if it's a real detailed solicitation and we have a lot of information to review. It can take some time to go through that process and go through that and score it and complete that whole evaluation process. Sometimes it's a matter of a day or two. It's quick and easy. Others take weeks to go through that process. So feel free to check in from time to time, but probably not too often. They likely won't be able to share anything with you anyway. They'll just be saying basically all you're going to get is it's still under evaluation, and we'll contact you at the time of award or if there's any questions. Speaking of questions, the agency may come back to you with questions about your response and need you to provide more information. Be responsive to those requests for clarification. And provide that information in a timely manner so that they can keep that evaluation flowing through there. You may be asked to present or provide a demonstration of what you're proposed. So be ready for that. And sometimes there's not a lot of time to prepare for that. So we're hoping, since you're an expert in the field, that you can do that in a short amount of time for the most part. The presentations, always be professional. Sometimes we see too many people brought to those presentations when they're in person, and people get overwhelmed by those. So try to keep it an appropriate number of people for that presentation. If it's not real involved, 1 to 3 people may be good. If it's more involved, I probably wouldn't go more than ever 5 in a presentation, but just keep that in mind. So the agency's made their decision. We're at the notice of intent to award part of the process. You as a bidder have a number of different things you can do at that point. Obviously, if you're the winner, you're going to go forward with contract negotiations and to go through that. But if you aren't the intended awardee, then I suggest you do a number of different things there. The first one is request a debriefing from the issuing officer, so you can learn about what your weaknesses were in that process, get information back so that you can make your next response better and do a better job of responding to the needs of the RFP at that time. They're probably just go through the shortcomings of your response. They're not going to go in detail a lot of times into the other responses. They're going to focus on yours and where you can do yours better. You can request, use that open records request I mentioned earlier, and use that throughout the process. Ask for, through that open records request process, the winning response, and then maybe even the responses of others, so that you can go and compare it to yours and decide, where it was better than yours on your own. And again, use that as a tool to improve your response for next time, whether it be for that same agency or another agency. Just learn from it as you go through. So once you have that award, if you are the awardee and you have that contract, now what? We want to make sure that you take the time to negotiate that contract with us. That it's a good process. You communicate back and forth very well through that. Sometimes, like I said, it's pretty quick and easy. If you agree to all the terms and conditions and to the work that's being asked for, it's usually pretty simple. Sometimes it's just a PO or a very simple contract. Other things are more involved, and there's a lot of things to negotiate and discuss, in terms to review, get legal involved. We always try to avoid that just because that bogs it down, and it will definitely take more time to get that contract negotiated. But we do recognize that it does need to happen from time to time, and we'll go through that and get that contract negotiated. The biggest thing I suggest there is just make sure you communicate throughout the process. You're responsive back and forth with the agency, and build a relationship at that point. It takes a whole lot of work for you to respond to a solicitation. It takes a lot of work for us to put a solicitation in place. So we really want to work together with you on keeping that contract going and deal with it. We understand that there's issues that come up throughout any contract, some bigger than others. But it's really how we respond to those issues that matters. We document them and communicate and have discussions to figure out how to come to a resolution to those issues when they come up. It's important that you communicate to the contract managers and the contract users. If there are issues, make sure you're bringing them up to those contract managers. My agency, we send surveys out once a year, usually at the time of renewal or before the renewal. We send it out to the agencies that are using the contract and to the vendor to get feedback and see where we have any issues or opportunities there for improvement. So we can work through the things and again, improve that contract. Depending on the value of the contract and the size of it and the scope and what it is, we want to make sure we have regular contract reviews and set those up appropriately based upon those issues. Sometimes it's monthly, quarterly, yearly as appropriate. If it's a project, we may have weekly project meetings. So however that's set up, we want to make sure that we are conducting those meetings regularly, having those discussions, and are prepared when we go to those meetings to talk about what issues may be going on. 90% of the problems that I see happen is just a matter of communication breaking down. The agency didn't communicate what their expectations were to the vendor. The vendor didn't ask questions about what they were being expected to do. And so we have to work through those. Those don't always come to light before the contract's signed, Sometimes it's down the road a ways. And so it just, again, it's important how we respond to those things. Things come up, issues come up, the environment changes. We just want to make sure that we are being responsive to those things and going through that and addressing those issues as they come up. We don't like to wait till the survey comes up at the end of the year. Obviously, if things aren't identified there, we're going to take care of them. But if there's something going on, we like to know about it early on, just because you as a contractor maybe have an issue in the department. Other departments might be an issue too. So we want to make sure we're taking care of that. Same thing if the vendor is not performing for one agency, they may not be performing for another agency. So we want to get ahead of it and just talk through those issues, especially if it's a master agreement that the state has that a lot of agencies are using. We definitely want to make sure that we are responsive to those issues and resolving them in a timely manner. Marketing your contract. So it's important for you to know who to go to, know who your buyers and users are. Again, review that state budget if you need to, so that you can find out what opportunities are available with the departments out there. I highly suggest you be proactive and informed throughout the process, throughout the life of that contract, so you know what's going on there. If you can, take the time to understand procurement laws and policies that govern the procurement that you're working with. Market your qualifications and those of your subcontractors to the agencies that would potentially use your contract. Again, establish that relationship with those departments and work with them to market that contract. Be active and participate in user groups and trade shows. So if there's different ones out there that are relate to your industry, make sure you're participating in those and getting in front of those departments that may be using your contracts. When we talk about procurement, we have a number of different stakeholders out there that we work with. My department itself works with other agencies. The agencies may have people within their departments that they work with. And this goes for state, city, county, schools, all of those different participants there. You guys, as the contractors, are another key stakeholder in this process. We're trying to do what we can to be what I like to tell my people, be customers of choice. We understand that you all have a number of different customers that you can choose from to work with. We want to be that customer of choice that you want to go to when you have multiple to choose from. We're the first one you want to go to because we're going to treat you right and do good things for you and pay you on time. Again, you're one of our key stakeholders. We have the governor, legislators, again, city councils, all those types of different parties out there that provide the rules or the laws that dictate how we do business. So we want to make sure we keep those all informed and know what's going on there. No matter what agency we're working with, cities, counties, schools, state, they're all funded by the taxpayers. So again, we want to be good stewards of those funds and doing what we can to appropriately take care of them and provide that fair level playing field for all the vendors that could be recipients of those tax dollars. And of course, no matter what agency we're dealing with, the media is always a concern. We want to make sure that we keep them informed. They're going to be praising or criticizing everything that we do. So we like to use what we call the Des Moines Register test. How would it look if it was presented on the front page of the Des Moines Register to the whole state? So be thinking of those things as we go through the process for the vendors themselves and for the agencies that we work with, and how that all looks for everybody, for all the parties involved there. When we're talking about procurement, we're all looking to get the right price. We all want to get the best value that we can. And so when we're talking about price, it's not just the lowest cost, but it's these other factors that come in. Again, we want to get the best value for our agencies. So included with that comes the right place, getting it to where it needs to be when we need it. So the right time there. We want the right quality and quantity. So we'll make sure that what we're getting meets the specifications that we set in that solicitation, and that we get the right number of them when we need them. With conditions being the way they've been the last few years, we've had challenges with that, trying to get that right quantity and quality as people try to substitute goods in because they don't have what we asked for, or they don't have enough. So then we don't get the right quantity when we need them. And overall, we're looking for the right partners to do work with. And that's you guys out there trying to find that right source to provide what it is that we need. And with any contract, there's terms and conditions now. That just didn't seem to be such an issue 20 years ago when I started in procurement, but definitely through time, I've seen terms and conditions become a bigger and bigger issue all the way across the board for all of our contracts. So again, trying to get those right terms and conditions established that are, an even ground for both the agency and the vendor themselves. So again, procurement rights, again, whole goal there is to get everything on target, on time, so that we can meet the needs of our agencies out there. A few strategies that I'll talk about here. One is communicate with the agencies and their buyers. Be prepared. Review expiring contracts and budgets. If you're an incumbent on a contract and you know it's coming up, have some discussions with the vendors as to what you're doing well, or with the departments, so you know what you're doing well, so that you can make adjustments if needed to. Communicate throughout the whole process, or whether it be the solicitation or the contract process. Be communicating with your agencies all the time, so that establish that relationship with them. Make them know that you're interested in their business and you want to work with them. And at any point, again, through the procurement process, during the solicitation or contract, don't assume anything, seek clarification, understand what it is you're committing to, read that solicitation, read that contract, know it, so that if there's any issues that come up, you can communicate those very well. You're not scrambling to figure out what's in the contract and trying to figure out what you committed yourself to, not knowing that is a problem. I'll talk about registering with the agencies in our online procurement tools. Go ahead and do that. It's just a good idea so that you can get notified of opportunities out there and know what's going on. In addition, with those incumbent vendor comments I made, don't assume one project will lead to the next. I've seen a number of times where not only did they possibly provide a bad response or an incomplete response because they assumed they would just get the business. I've seen instances where bidders will, be aggressive and bid low on a small project, knowing that there's going to be a larger project down the road. Keep in mind that not everybody's the same evaluating those responses. So they may not know what you did on the previous project, and they may not have worked with you or been involved in that process. So try to be aggressive, but not too aggressive in that standpoint. And don't make that assumption that one thing's going to lead to another. Because again, we'll be bidding it out and the second project, and everybody will have an opportunity to bid on it. So take that with a grain of salt. So at this point, got about 10 minutes left here. If you want to ask any questions, if you want to talk about experience you had, I encourage you, and we can talk about how to respond better to that, or what the agency may have been thinking through that process, and go from there. So I open up the floor for any questions.
So far, I don't have any questions in chat. No questions. Let me close this out, and I'm going to show you through our website a few things, just to give you an idea of where to find information. So if you go to das.iowa.gov, central services there. Our department is kind of expanded, so we didn't just we used to just be procurement, but now we oversee fleet and print and have a warehouse that we work with. So I've expanded that role there. So change your name from central procurement to central services. So we have this section here for bidders.
It's all good information for you guys to find for vendors. You may have seen our current bidding opportunities. I put on a vendor orientation, similar to this discussion, where we go and talk about ways to work with the state and how to respond to solicitations and that kind of thing, specific to us. How to do business with the state. So there's just kind of a quick introduction, where to register. So our impact system, if you're not registered in there, I highly encourage you to do so. I have that up here. To register, it's just a quick form to fill out here. And then you can respond to a solicitation and get notifications of different ones for whatever commodity codes that or commodity categories you sign up for. You can get notified when we have those opportunities out there. There's kind of a brief explanation of the solicitation process, kind of similar to what I just talked about, but a little more detail there. If you want to see the commodity codes that we purchase, you can see that list there. The state purchasing contacts. So we have contacts broken up. You know, I encourage you to reach out to people that may buy things what you provide. So I have 3 different groups of contacts here. So this is my team, me and my boss, and then I have 10 purchasing agents. Unfortunately, I don't have all the slots filled at the moment due to retirements and such. We've lost a few people, so but these are all the purchasing agents in my team. What their primary focus is doing is to put contracts in place for other departments to use, so that they don't have to go out and get quotes and put things out for bid all the time. We try to anticipate what their needs are, put contracts in place. We have got roughly 1,200 contracts out there like that we have in place already that they can go buy off anytime and without having to do their own competition. Go back here. This list here is all of the purchasing agents at various facilities across the state. So all the DHS facilities, the prisons, and the veterans home. We have here a purchasing contact and a financial contact. So if you're working through and want to sell something to the state, these would be good contacts for you to reach out to. And then if you've been awarded a contract or a PO and you have a payment issue or something that needs to be resolved, we have our financial person there too, so that you can work with them to get that resolved if you need to. Again, quite a few contacts there. This list looks like it's pretty much up to date. These folks don't change too often, like our other agencies here. So this third list is basically all of the contacts at our the main office in Des Moines for each department. So you can see here we got some blanks just because of turnover in here in Des Moines. So trying to keep up with those. But again, we have the purchasing contact and the financial manager for each one of those departments. Have all of them here. You may have heard in the news that we're consolidating departments, so some of these may disappear and be combined with another department. But for now, for the next month yet, these are our departments and all those contacts. I wanted to show you our bid opportunities website, just so you can quick take a look at that. I can go here anytime and take a look. You can go and see all the current postings out here at any time. So these are all the formal solicitations that have to be posted out publicly for people to see. You can click choose an agency, and it'll give you all their solicitations. Or you can sort and search by each one of these columns. If you subscribe to one of those solicitation notification tools I told you about, then you can, and that they only give you limited information, usually just the solicitation number and the title of it. You can come out here and you can search for those things and find them, find that bid number and put that in there, and it'll show you those. I like to sort here and just see what's going to be expiring here in the next few days. So these are the solicitations that are going to be ending here this week, and may need some attention, just so I can anticipate what's going on there. If you click on one, you can go in there. It gives you various information about that solicitation. You can go and see a kind of short description, who the contact is at the department, who's putting it out for bid, when it's going to be closing here. And then you'll either have a link to our online procurement system, or you'll have attachments here you can go and look at for instructions on how to respond to that solicitation. You can click on this link here, and this will give you an email whenever something changes on this posting. You'll be notified if there's an amendment or something like that to that solicitation. I'm going to go back here and see if we can choose another one that has that online tool. Guessing this one does. So here you can see there's a link, and it'll take you right out to our e-procurement tool, and you can come out here and see the open solicitations. Unfortunately, it doesn't take you right to that one that you're looking at. You'll have to go and find it in the list here, but you can kind of see get an idea what that all looks like there. It will also show you ones that have recently closed. So these are under evaluation at the moment. They haven't been awarded yet. Or you can go out here and see ones that are awarded. So if you bid on something, you can come out here and see some of the information related to that after it's been awarded. So you can see the bid tab and kind of see how everybody compared to yours as far as pricing, and just to get that information to look at. And so you can see here all the different respondents and see what their price was for each one of those items out there. I talked about current contracts, so you can come out here to this link and you can see some of those contracts we have out here. These are mostly contracts that are going to be available to all agencies. If it's just a contract we have that's available to one agency, is written specific for them, we don't always put those out here for the world to see, just the ones that are available to everybody, just so there's no confusion as having people trying to buy off one that's not available to them to use. But if you go in there and click on one, again, you can see kind of a general description of what it is, who the contact my department is for that contract. So you have questions, you can go to them to ask those, tell you what agencies can buy off of it. So this one here, all state agencies or other governmental entities, being cities, county schools, etc. There may be documents attached, there may not be. Sometimes we just have a link to the different documents. So you can go out there and see that. There should be a price list and a copy of the contract, and those kinds of things. So
just one thing I wanted to point out really quick is the payment terms at the bottom of this. I think a lot of the clients that I work with, they don't pay attention to this. And this is one of the more important parts of it that you would want to pay attention to, so you can make sure that you have enough of money to cover the payment terms. Make sure you have enough of money on hand.
Yeah, unfortunately for some businesses, it's a little tough working with us because we have up to 60 days by law to make those payments. Typically, it's far less than that. We have a lot of people that are using P cards, so those payments are made right away at the time of purchase. So for smaller things under $5,000, that's a common practice. Most agencies, I think, pay in that 2 to 3 week time for the most part for a lot of things. As long as everything's invoiced well and appropriate and matches up with the purchase, we don't have too many problems with that. And it's usually much shorter than that 60 days, but we do have that option there to take that 60 days to pay that in some cases.
One question that I know I get a lot of times from the clients, when you want to bid on these jobs, is there a specific amount of time that you have to be in business, or a specific amount of insurance that you would have to bid on certain jobs?
Sure. All of these solicitations should have that information identified in there. So if there is a experience requirement, that should be outlined in there. If it's not, and you're not sure what that is, ask the question. If it's not clear as to what that requirement is, they should have insurance requirements in there, and be communicating to you what it is, how much insurance you need to have. If there's a time when you think the insurance requirement is high and you want to ask why, I encourage you to do that. The department could go back and change that requirement and lower it or remove that type of insurance if it's not appropriate to have for that industry that you're bidding on. So again, it's one of those questions. Anything that's unclear, even if it's something you would like to see changed, if there's something in the solicitation that concerns you, that you think gives a vendor, a competitor, a unfair advantage, call that out with the issuing officer. And I've gone back and had people change, amend their solicitation to remove those things. In some cases, I've had them cancel the solicitation completely, go back, rewrite it, so that we remove anything that's unfair. In my shop, we're procurement experts. We're not necessarily subject matter experts on what it is that we're buying. So sometimes those things get through and we don't recognize them as being an issue. That's where your expertise comes in. You come in and tell us, hey, this is a problem. We go back to the agency, have a discussion with them and figure out how to resolve that issue, and take care of that so that we, again, are ensuring we're having a fair level playing field for everybody involved. Other questions or other information you want me to share with you?
I know it's a lot of information, and so if you do have any additional questions, I'm always available to help people walk through these listings. And of course, Carl just showed you the contact list and information and the links for how to do business with the state of Iowa a little bit earlier. A copy of this recording will be available on our website, so you could always refer back to this as well.
Yep. As I tell people that I attend these types of briefings, come to me if you have questions for any department, public procurement in general. I'm the president of the Iowa Public Procurement Association. So I work with a lot of cities, counties, schools on their procurement issues. I answer questions for them all the time, consult with them on things. All of our state agencies, I oversee procurement training for all of them. So I know a lot of those people, people involved, have a relationship with them. So if there is something that comes up, you feel comfortable talking with them, feel free to contact me and I can facilitate that discussion. Just want to be that point of reference for you, somebody you can reach out to if you have problems, and we can work through them together out there. I know procurement processes can be kind of intimidating for people. There's a lot of steps involved in different things, but we want to be here to help you and educate you, inform you, and just to walk you through that. Hold your hand if we have to, so that you can be competitive. That's one thing we're looking for, is just as much competition as possible for the opportunities that we put out there, as are a lot of the other public entities that we work with. So we're here to help, and we'll do whatever we can to assist that process.
And I will say, Carl responds to his emails like crazy fast. If you email me, you're going to have to wait for a response. But Carl, he was pretty fast with responding to emails. So please feel free to reach out to him if you all have any questions. If there's no additional questions, I'll go ahead and start to close this out. Carl, thank you so much for taking the time today to share your information with our audience. And thank you to the audience for being here. I wanted to take a moment to share some of the information available. I did put the bid opportunities.iowa.gov website in the chat. We have Always Ready, Getting Ready. Basically, that is the top 10 steps on starting your business on Wednesday, the 24th. On Thursday, the 25th, we have Always Ready Credit, which is understanding your personal credit and how to establish business credit. And then June 2nd, in person, we have the story of Highland Park, featuring Slow Down Coffee. If you would like more information, feel free to check out our website, theiowacenter.org. This recording will be on the website either tomorrow or the day after. And also make sure to sign up for our newsletter for additional information. And with that, I would like to close with the piece of advice that I have for us all, which is to love what you do and do what you love. Thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon. Thank you, Carl.
Thanks.